We are at Cesca with Craig Wallen, and today, obviously, we are talking about rhubarb. So we've got some large stalks in front of us here, and we've got a variety of dishes, but let's start with the basics. What is rhubarb for the uninitiated?
Well, rhubarb is classified as a fruit, mainly because the main use is sweetening it up and putting it in a pie, for a century, I guess.
Right.
It's a vegetable, and there's actually a little bit of versatility to it. Yeah.
And so what kind of vegetable, like what family does it come from? Like when we're thinking about rhubarb, what is it comparable to?
Texture-wise, you're probably somewhere close to a celery.
Right.
It's sort of like, it's mostly water in there. Mm-hmm. There's a flavor-wise, there's a reason why rhubarb and strawberries used together. They're a very complementary flavor.
Right.
And the sort of floral notes that you get from rhubarb are very comparable to a strawberry. The difference is the tartness that comes with rhubarb. And this is what throws people off with it sometimes. If you took like some of that raw rhubarb and tried to eat it, it's so astringent that it's like completely cleans your palate out.
Yeah.
Hitting it with lots of sugar tames that tartness. You're playing a balance of tart and sweet and whatnot, and it helps the natural flavor of the rhubarb come through once you tame that tartness.
And so I think for a lot of people, they're used to, as you said, seeing rhubarb in a pie, in a tart of some kind, but if you wanted to just use rhubarb on its own, what are the basic ways that you can cook rhubarb?
Well, rhubarb cooks very quickly. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when we make like this rhubarb marmalade, you put it in a pot, you put a little bit of sugar in there, put maybe just a little touch of orange juice, and within 10 minutes, it's going to cook down till it's falling apart.
Right.
So it's very, very easy to use. Now, if you wanted to use it in a preparation that's less sweet, maybe something more savory, then you can pickle rhubarb also. Pickles really nicely. It's actually especially at home, it's a very easy process. You take a little bit of like a champagne vinegar or some sort of nice vinegar, add a little bit of sugar, but again, you can play with this. And then you can add some flavorings, maybe some mint if you want a little heat to it, a little chili. And really just bring that stuff up to a boil and pour it over and just let it sit. And then you're gonna have like a little bit of a crunch left into that rhubarb.
Where can you use pickled rhubarb or other savory forms of rhubarb that perhaps people don't think of?
Sure. Well, salads are a good place to start. It's a very easy preparation to pull together. What's common, especially when you're using something that you're enhancing the sweetness with, I guess, would be to do something with some more like game meats. So if you use some duck and you roasted a duck breast, or if you bought some duck confit legs or something like that, and then just garnished it with some of like the pickled rhubarb or even some of the marmalade, it'd be really nice because the richness in the game meats pairs well with something that's a little sweet, a little tart. It all kind of balances out in the palate.
And then let's talk about rhubarb in the sweet context, because that's kind of where people like to put it. What are ways that you can use rhubarb in desserts without just doing the same old thing over again?
In Germany, they used to take rhubarb and make a candy out of it. So like this is just sort of slowly cooked in a little simple syrup and then coated in sugar, and you give it some time to dry, and then you have just like a little candy that you can play on. And then here, for example, this is the marmalade that we were talking about. And again, if you took something like this and just in your morning, you spread it on with some butter and some toast, you have your breakfast. And then we do a play on a tart. We don't do the grandma's old-fashioned rhubarb pie, but
just like my grandmother made.
Yeah, well, I think my grandmother's. It's always the winner for me.
Yeah,
my grandmother's
exactly.
rhubarb pie.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone loves their grandmother's rhubarb pie.
Grandma made a great rhubarb pie.
So this we have it all.
So this is a play. I do a pastry cream in here, which again, that richness and the tartness. So I think they all kind of balance each other out well.
And so for people who are getting started experimenting, as you've played around with rhubarb, what are some things that you have found that just don't work with the tartness and the very specific flavor of rhubarb? Like, what should you steer people away from?
When you deal with something that has a very strong element like this, you always think about balancing. So you think of tart, sweet, salty, rich, these sort of elements to it, and including some spicy too. You're always looking for a balance to it.
Right.
So if something's very tart, if you add something sweet, maybe a little bit of spice, if you hit these different parts of your palate, then you're going to find a balance that works for you in many different situations, you know. So the flexibility of rhubarb is only limited by, you know, the flexibility of your palate.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for teaching us everything we need to know about rhubarb. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.